Hello, my name is Brucey. Today we're going to be installing a winch.
So I know what you're going to say. Why do I need a winch on my Subaru? Why don't I get a Jeep? Why don't I get a side-by-side? A Jeep Rubicon and a 4Runner and a side-by-side and a dedicated off-road vehicle is way more capable than a Subaru Outback. So by that logic, I need a winch more than they do, right? Short answer is I don't. It was a good deal. I got it used. There was a small batch of these winch mount bumpers made, and I happened to get one second hand with all the parts. It seemed like a good buy. This would give me a lot more confidence if I'm alone. I don't typically off-road alone, but I do it on occasion, and I think it could come in handy, and like I said, the price was right. The winch itself is a Terra 45 with a synthetic line. If you're winching, I believe it's still a good idea to have some sort of counterweight on the line itself in case the line snaps. I know that's standard procedure with a typical winch line, but with this line being synthetic, it is lighter. I still think there is a danger, so it would be a good idea to have that just in case. I plan to just have a floor mat or really anything on that line if I'm actually pulling it and not just demonstrating it as I did for the opening of this video. Something else to consider, the winch itself is 4,500 pounds, rated at 4,500 pounds, excuse me. Most people that buy a winch say it should be 1.5 times the weight of the car. That means I should really have like a 55, maybe even 6,000 pound winch. But this is what would fit in the bumper, and this is what this plate was made for. I do plan to get a snatch block, which will double the rated pull that I can actually pull out with this. I only wired it up for the one controller. Didn't really, not that I was against cutting up the bumper, obviously I did. I didn't really see the need to have a controller inside the car and outside the car. I couldn't see any scenarios where that would come up. Something else to consider when you're doing this, you are replacing the bumper beam. This bit right here, that will impact the crash rating of the car. This is just a 5-mile-an-hour bumper. This is very light. You can see it's not super heavy. Honestly, the bracket that replaced it, you'll see here in a minute, is stronger but not quite as wide. It only comes out to here. So I'm not too worried. The crumple zones of the car are still intact. In the low-speed crash, I'm likely to break the plastic now, or more likely, like I said, because the wings don't go out quite as far. But it's not really a factor for me. One last thing, the winch does have the ability to free spool, so I can just click it and pull out the line. Unfortunately, to compromise actually being able to fit it under here, underneath the factory bumper in this location, I don't have that ability. That's a convenience more than anything. It's not really a big deal. If I was able to free spool, I'd be able to just pull this out and then click it back in. But if you have any questions on any of this, leave some in the comments. How-to guide is going to start right now. First thing we're going to need to do to install this winch is remove the bumper cover. There's going to be a series of pop tabs here. I believe there's 6 of them. Once we take the top tabs off, we're going to go underneath the car. I've got an aftermarket skid plate here. I imagine most people that have plans to install a winch are going to install something similar, but this will be a little bit different down here. But what you're wanting to do is remove the pop tabs that are going to hold the fender liner in place, as well as the bottom of the bumper through here. So we'll go ahead and remove those now. So there's two tabs, one on each side on the inside of the fender. If I can get a good shot of it here. This right here. Go ahead and remove this one on each side. Then from there, it should just pull off. You will have to disconnect the fog lights. They just twist out. Ooh, looks scary like this. Now with the bumper off, this would be a good time to change the horns if you have any intention of doing that, to change the fog light, although you don't need to remove the bumper. But what we're doing today is we're replacing this beam right here with our winch beam. We're then going to remove 8, 4 on each side of these 12mm bolts to remove the bumper beam. Something that I know is going to come up is someone's going to ask me, what about all the extra weight that I'm putting on the front of the car, and it will be heavier. I'm not going to say it isn't, but I wanted to go ahead. I wanted to go ahead and weigh the bumper before. So the stock bumper beam weighs 21 pounds. And I wanted to see what the new bumper would weigh. Oh, I hate this stupid thing. I want to see what this would weigh. I'm going to guess it weighs about 50 pounds. £54. So it adds about 30 pounds. Now 30 pounds is not a lot of weight, but it's not a little bit of weight. Now if I was an SCCA race car, doing autocross, track days, something like that, 30 pounds extra right here might be a problem. But for this, for a lifted station wagon, Subaru, it's not going to make a difference. With the bumper beam off, we go ahead and place the new beam on. I've already got the Terra 45 winch mounted. It's not going to be 100% done, but we just go ahead and replace those 12mm bolts and attach it back on the frame. I had to remove this sensor. I believe this is the actuator for the active shutters. I had to actually remove that from the frame. This piece here. As you can see, it wasn't doing anything. But no loss. For the 2.5, you'd actually have a little bit better cooling, but a little bit slower warm-up time. Alright, I've now removed the grill. I've mocked the bumper back in place. I've only got it setting on there right now. But you can see this is the beam we just installed. The winch is underneath here. I won't be able to get a good shot, but I'm going to go in and mark with a Sharpie where I need to cut the bumper.
I've now placed the winch faceplate on the bumper. It's actually backwards. You can see where I've marked there. I've done this because I can't get a very good marking, at least not enough that I'm comfortable with, for cutting the bumper. So I'm going to cut just this slot first and adjust from there. If it's accurate, then it's perfect and I can go ahead. If it's not, then I'm going to be cutting essentially twice anyway, so it's no skin off my back. As you can see, this only looks kind of terrible, but that's okay, because what I was wanting to test was to make sure that it was accurate. And it appears that it is. So now I can go ahead and cut the whole hole out and make it a little bit cleaner. For the control panel, I've drilled a hole in this bottom piece. This is where my OBD2 sensor connector goes underneath. It then goes up to this fuse tap right here. The hole then goes through the firewall, through a grommet that's shared with the rest of the body harness. And then the control wires, the small green and black ones there, punch through that small bit in the firewall. I've got the engine cover off here, so you can see what's going on. Look how clean I keep my engine bay. So the blue and yellow wire coming off the winch come in from the bumper, go underneath the battery tray, go to this control box right here mounted on the strut tower. The positive and negative, or actually negative and positive looking at it that way, terminals snake back to the battery. So to use it, we take the controller, we take the plug, we plug it up down here. From here we can use it inside the cabin or outside. The cord's definitely long enough. And then you just use the controller, pull it out. Those that are paying attention can probably see that I didn't end up cutting that whole plate out. I just cut the opening for the winch itself. I didn't really see a need to, since the plate for the winch didn't actually protrude from the bumper. I'm actually considering doing some sort of false license plate bracket up here and completely making this invisible. Leave some feedback if you want, comment, subscribe, whatever. Thanks for watching.